At my sister's wedding, they gave me a seat in the hallway, next to a mop bucket and a vending machine. So I left. I didn't yell. I didn't make a scene. But what happened after made everyone wish I had. I always thought I understood my place in the family. Not because anyone explained it to me, but because they didn't have to. It was always written between the lines, in the way the conversations flowed around me, in the way my name was said last. Or not at all. I'm the oldest. My sister Mia came 5 years after me, and from the moment she could talk, she owned every room she entered. She was radiant, sweet, funny, the kind of kid strangers smiled at in supermarkets. Our parents adored her, and I didn't resent that, at least not at first. Growing up, I was the quiet one, the responsible one, the one who did his homework without being asked, who took out the trash, checked on Grandma when she was sick, kept his head down when Dad was in one of his moods. I learned to solve problems so early that no one remembered to ask me if I had any. Mia got cheers. I got nods. She got family hugs. I got reminders to drive safe. I didn't push back. I just got out. At 18, I left for college 2 states over, full scholarship. I didn't ask for help. I knew better. I got a job right after graduation, moved to a small apartment downtown, and started building. Quietly. Steadily. I built my own consulting firm before 30. I made mistakes. I learned fast. I didn't send out press releases. And I never heard a single, "We're proud of you." Family calls were rare, holidays, mostly. Birthdays, sometimes. I'd visit when I could, bring gifts, keep it simple. The spotlight was never mine, and I'd stopped stepping toward it a long time ago. Mia, though, she lit up the group chats. New boyfriend, new apartment, new hairstyle, new drama. She changed jobs every year, but no one called her unstable. She made the same mistakes I was warned not to make, and somehow they became charming anecdotes when she told them. I remember once, during a Christmas dinner, I tried to talk about a project I was leading. A major logistics contract, one that could reshape our entire business structure. "That sounds complicated," my dad interrupted. "Mia, tell us about your new puppy again," he said. And just like that, I disappeared. Still, I showed up. I tried. I believed deep down that maybe if I stayed long enough, patient enough, present enough, they'd notice me. That one day, I'd walk into a room and they'd look up and see someone they were proud to call their son. When Mia called to tell me she was getting married, she was glowing through the phone. "I'm so happy," she said. "It's going to be big, elegant. Mom's helping with everything," she gushed. "That's great," I told her. "Let me know if you need help with anything," I offered. She didn't ask, just said, "You'll be there, right?" "I mean, obviously," she said quickly. "Of course," I replied. "Wouldn't miss it," I assured. The next few months were a blur. No updates, no follow-ups. I didn't even know the venue until the official invitation arrived. It was beautiful. Heavy cardstock, gold trim, a photo of them smiling in some sun-drenched garden. I flipped it over. Ceremony at 3, reception to follow. Black tie. No mention of the seating chart, no note from her. Still, I bought a new suit. I booked a flight and a hotel. I spent 2 days preparing a wedding gift, something meaningful, custom engraved, thoughtful. I didn't want to be flashy, I just wanted to be present. The day before the wedding, I texted her. "Need anything last minute?" I asked. "Nope, all good. See you tomorrow," she replied. Simple, distant. But I told myself it was fine, that tomorrow things would feel different. Tomorrow, I'd walk into that room and maybe, just maybe, I'd finally be seen. I arrived at the venue early. It was one of those sprawling estates with white columns and a long, winding driveway lined with fairy lights and manicured hedges. Staff bustled around in black ties, adjusting floral arrangements, checking lists, placing cards. The whole place smelled like roses and anticipation. I checked in at the welcome table, where a young woman with a headset and clipboard smiled at me. "Name?" she asked. "Eli Morgan," I replied. She scanned the list, her smile faltering just slightly. Ah, yes, table 19, she said carefully. You're just out here, she added, gesturing behind her, past the main ballroom doors. Out here, I echoed. Yes, just in the side hallway, she said quickly. We had to expand a bit due to the guest count, but it's cozy, she explained. I stared at her for a second, not quite sure I heard right. Is there a mistake? I asked. I'm the bride's brother, I added. She blinked, clearly caught off guard. Oh, she said. I didn't know. That's just where your card was placed. But I'm sure you're still close enough to enjoy everything, she said, trying to recover. I walked toward the hallway she indicated. Just outside the main room turned out to mean just that. Outside. There was a row of 3 small tables set up against the wall near the restrooms. The overhead lights flickered faintly, and I could hear the buzz of a vending machine nearby. At one of the tables, an older couple I didn't recognize was already seated. They looked just as confused as I felt. My place card was there. Eli Morgan. Gold lettering. No mistake. I stood there for a moment, waiting for the joke to end, for someone to walk out and say, "Oh no, that's wrong. You're supposed to be with family." But no one came. The music started up inside the ballroom. I peeked through the open doorway and saw the chandeliers light up. Waiters began pouring champagne. The wedding planner announced something I couldn't hear. I took a slow breath and pulled out my phone. Maybe Mia had noticed. Maybe she'd texted. Nothing. I typed a quick message. Hey, just got here. Looks like I'm seated outside the main room. That right? I waited. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Finally, 3 dots appeared. Then her reply. Oh, sorry. Things got shuffled last minute. It's so chaotic. Hope that's okay. Hope that's okay. I stared at the screen, rereading the sentence like it would change if I blinked enough times. I didn't respond. Instead, I looked through the ballroom doors again. I saw my parents, dressed to the nines, laughing at one of the front tables near the dance floor. Mia stood in the center of a crowd, radiant in white, gesturing excitedly with a flute of champagne in her hand. She looked happy. Free. I wasn't in a single photo being taken. No one waved, no one looked for me. I glanced back at my hallway table. No centerpiece, no candles. Just a glass of water and a menu. I stood there for a few more minutes, long enough to convince myself it wasn't a big deal, that it wasn't personal. But then I saw Aunt June, who lived in another country and hadn't seen Mia in 10 years, sitting inside, at a table with a view of the stage. And I realized something with perfect clarity. This wasn't about space. It was about exclusion. I picked up my gift, turned, and walked out. No drama. No confrontation. Just a quiet decision in a hallway that was never meant to hold me. I didn't hear from anyone that night. No missed calls, no texts, no "where'd you go?" or "everything okay?" Just silence. Like I'd never been there in the first place. The next morning, I woke up early in my hotel room. My suit was still hanging on the back of the chair, my gift box unopened beside it. I stared at it for a while before tossing it into my suitcase. I didn't bother writing a note. They wouldn't read it anyway. I checked out, grabbed a coffee, and drove straight to the airport. I didn't look back at the venue when I passed it. I didn't need to. 3 days later, I got a message. Not from Mia. Not from my parents. From a cousin. Hey, just wanted to say it was weird you weren't at the wedding. Thought you'd be in the front row. Everything okay? I didn't answer. I didn't trust myself to. A few hours later, another message popped up. This one from my mother. I heard you left the reception early. That was really rude, Eli. It was Mia's big day. No apology, no question, just blame. I waited a day before responding. I was seated outside, next to a vending machine. That's not a seat. That's a message. She replied within minutes. Oh, don't be dramatic. We were over capacity. Everyone made sacrifices. I knew that wasn't true. I'd seen the guest list, the layout, the 20 empty chairs at the backup cousin table. You made a choice, I typed back. And now so have I. No response. Days passed, then a week, then 2. I stayed busy with work. Meetings, calls, planning sessions. But the wedding kept echoing in my head. Not just the hallway, the way they'd erased me from the entire picture. One night, I scrolled through Mia's Instagram. The wedding photos were up, polished, cinematic, full of smiling faces. I wasn't in any of them. Not even the group shots. I didn't expect to be front and center, but I hadn't expected to be scrubbed out like I was never there. I zoomed in on one image, the full family photo. Parents, aunts, cousins, everyone beaming under a floral arch. My seat was still empty, just out of frame. A few days later, I got a work email from one of our clients. Big firm, upper-level executives, high-profile portfolio. We were finalizing a strategic partnership, and the CEO wanted to meet in person. I opened the attachment, scanning through the participants. And there he was, David Connors, Mia's new husband. Same name, same face. I triple-checked the LinkedIn profile just to be sure. It hit me like cold water. He had no idea who I was. At the wedding, he'd smiled at me vaguely and walked away. Never introduced himself. Never asked how I knew the bride. Probably assumed I was a vendor or a +1. He married my sister and never even met her brother. At the meeting, he was polished, confident. He shook my hand firmly, nodded to my team, made a joke about traffic. "Thanks for making time," he said. "Really excited to finally work with your firm," he added. "Likewise," I said coolly. "It's always nice when business stays in the family," I remarked. He tilted his head. "Sorry?" he asked. I just smiled. "Nothing," I replied. "Let's talk numbers." I kept it professional. I always do. But after the meeting, I called our director of strategy. "I want you to pull the partnership proposal," I said. "Rework it. Make us the lead. No co-branding, no middlemen," I instructed. "You want to edge them out?" he asked. "I want to remind them who they're dealing with," I said. Over the next few weeks, we restructured the deal. Our side took more control. We replaced 2 joint vendors with internal teams. David's firm was still included, but barely. Enough to keep the optics clean. Eventually, I got a text from Mia. "Are you intentionally sabotaging David's deal?" I stared at the message. No hi, no sorry, just an accusation. I responded simply. "Number, I'm just doing my job. Maybe you should try doing yours. Being a sister." She left me on red. But that wasn't the part that hit me hardest. What hit hardest was what I heard a few days later, from a former colleague of David's who happened to grab lunch with one of my analysts. "Apparently, he told people at the wedding you were some random distant cousin," she said. "Said you showed up late and left in a huff for attention." I felt my jaw tighten. I hadn't said a word to anyone that night. I hadn't caused a scene. I hadn't made a toast or a complaint. But they'd written me into the story anyway. The villain. The jealous one. The unstable brother. I closed my laptop, leaned back in my chair, and let the silence settle in. That's when I realized they were never going to tell the truth. Not about the wedding. Not about me. Not to anyone. And I was done waiting for them to. The invitation came on crisp white cardstock with silver trim. Standard, elegant, corporate. A black tie charity gala hosted by one of our oldest investment partners, with a list of attendees so long it took up an entire second page. I skimmed through it out of habit, eyes catching on familiar names. Then I saw it. David Connors and Mia Connors. Of course they'd be there. I could have declined. Could have sent a proxy, pleaded schedule conflicts, stayed in my clean bubble of distance and silence. But I didn't. I RSVP'd yes, sent my measurements to the tailor, and booked the car service. The night of the gala, the city shimmered with late autumn chill. The venue was a restored museum downtown. High ceilings, Art Deco chandeliers, velvet ropes, and marble floors. The kind of place that made people talk a little softer and stand a little straighter. I arrived early, as I always do. Not because I wanted to, but because I'd learned that people watch entrances more than exits, and I wanted to be seen. I made my way through the main hall, shaking hands, offering nods, brief smiles. I wasn't flashy. I didn't need to be. When you own the table, you don't have to shout over it. Half an hour in, I spotted them. Mia stood near the center bar in a navy gown, hair up, laughing a little too loudly. David stood beside her, one hand in his pocket, the other wrapped casually around his glass. He looked comfortable, powerful, like he belonged. He hadn't seen me yet. I circled the room slowly, sipping my drink, catching fragments of conversation. Waiting. And then, like a stage cue, we crossed paths. His smile flickered briefly when he saw me. Then he remembered. Or maybe he didn't. Maybe he just felt it. That drop in the air pressure. Mia turned. Her eyes landed on me like a slap. "You're here," she said tightly. "Evening," I greeted calmly. David extended a hand with practiced ease. "Didn't realize you'd be attending," he said. "Pleasant surprise," he added. "Likewise," I replied, shaking his hand. "How's business?" I asked. "Busy," he answered. "A lot of transition lately. Restructuring some teams. You know how it is," he said with a hint of wear. "Sure," I said. "Hard to hold on to good positioning when your partner pulls rank," I added. His smile twitched. "Some adjustments take time," he said cautiously. Mia cut in. "Why are you here?" she asked, voice low. "It's a public event," I said. "And I was invited." "Don't worry, I didn't sneak in through the hallway," I added dryly. Her face stiffened. "You're still bitter about that?" she asked. I tilted my head. "Number not bitter," I replied. "Just aware. There's a difference," I said. David glanced between us, clearly sensing the tension, but not sure where to step. Mia leaned in slightly. "You embarrassed us," she said. "You left without a word, and then ghosted everyone. People asked about you. You made it awkward," she accused. I looked at her carefully. "I didn't make it awkward," I said. "You did. You placed me outside like I was an afterthought. Then made up a story about me storming out. I was just the only one who refused to pretend it was normal," I said plainly. Her eyes flashed. "You're so dramatic," she snapped. "Everything has to be about you," she added. "No," I said calmly. "It was never about me. That was the problem. It was always about making sure I stayed out of the picture. Quiet. Easy to forget," I stated. David cleared his throat, stepping in. "Maybe now's not the time," he began. But I wasn't done. "You married my sister," I said to him. "And you didn't know who I was. Didn't know my face. My name. That's not on you. That's on her," I said sharply. He froze. "Mia?" he asked carefully. "I didn't think it mattered," she said, turning defensive. "I was just trying to keep things simple," she muttered. "You weren't trying to keep things simple," I said. "You were trying to erase me," I accused. She crossed her arms. "Why would I try to erase you?" she asked coldly. "You erased yourself a long time ago. You never came around, never called, always acted like you were above us." She shot. "I kept my distance," I replied. "Because every time I got close, I was reminded I was only welcome on your terms," I said. We stood there, 3 people in the middle of a glittering room, the air between us colder than the champagne. Then I turned to David. "I'll be restructuring our side of the deal again," I said flatly. "Don't worry, it's not personal, it's just business," I added. He blinked. "Understood?" he said, jaw tightening. I nodded once, stepped back, and walked away. I didn't look over my shoulder. I didn't need to. I'd said what needed saying. And for once, they were the ones left standing in the hallway. 2 weeks after the gala, I received a letter in the mail. Not an email. Not a text. An actual letter, written in my mother's shaky handwriting. A single page folded into thirds, no return address. It didn't start with "Dear Eli," no greeting at all. "We heard what happened at the event," she wrote. "Mia is very upset. This family has always been about unity, not pride. You could have handled things differently." She didn't mention the hallway, or the wedding, or how I'd been ignored for years. I folded the letter back up and slid it into the drawer with the others. Old birthday cards, untouched apologies, and clipped holiday notes that never once asked how I was doing. I didn't write back. Instead, I focused on what was in front of me. I finalized a new deal that expanded our firm into 3 new cities. I promoted 2 people who reminded me of who I used to be: quiet, overlooked, but sharp as hell. I stopped checking my family's social media. Unfollowed. Muted. Disconnected the thread. There was a time I thought walking away meant losing something. Now I know better. Sometimes walking away is the only way you win. Mia didn't reach out. Neither did David. I assumed they were too busy rewriting their version of the story. That's fine. Let them. I'm not in it anymore. One quiet Sunday, I took the wedding gift I'd brought all those months ago, the custom box still unopened, and donated it. Someone else could use it. Someone who mattered to someone. Later that evening, I sat on the balcony of my apartment with a mug of tea, and no one asking me to explain myself. The sun was setting behind the skyline, painting everything gold. I didn't feel bitter. I didn't feel smug. I just felt free. For the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to earn a seat at someone else's table. I had built my own, and it had more than enough room for people who actually wanted me there. Thanks for watching.